Hey, welcome to Modern Art Blitz. I'm your host, Matt Gleason. My guest, a legend. I want to say in the Inland Empire and Southern California around, but let me ask you, do you consider yourself an Inland Empire artist? No? A Southern California artist? A Southern California legend, Rebecca Hamm. Rebecca, welcome to Modern Art Blitz.
Thank you.
We've got a ruckus crowd.
Great to be here.
So you know, I would like to say that the thing that I really appreciate about your art is that you have liberated landscape from kind of the boringness of the Sunday painter group, okay?
Oh.
And I think there's a certain radicality to the way that you approach the natural world, in rendering the natural world, I should say. So if you could talk a little about what you do and why you do it.
Wow, yeah. Well, while we're looking at this photo right there,
Yeah.
the image comes from my experience in nature. One of the things that I love about where I live and why I live there is I can get right out into the foothills and the mountains, and I've lived there actually all my life.
Oh, really? Where?
In Claremont.
Claremont, you consider? Oh, it's the foothills.
Well, yeah, right. I can get right into the foothills.
Oh, because they're so close.
Yeah.
Up to 15? You go up to 15, or what do you go up?
No, I actually
Is there
walk
some
from
little
my house.
a little trail, like a dirt path?
Yeah,
Okay.
and go up. And I lived in Mount Baldy for a few years
You
too.
lived on Mount Baldy?
Yeah,
Like-
on.
How
yeah.
how far up? What elevation?
I was at right after Hogsback,
Oh,
and
no.
in a ranch up there.
How often did you see the Boy Scouts walking by? Did they
Never.
No?
I never saw a Boy Scout up
No?
there. No.
That's like you get a merit badge if you climb Mount Baldy. It's a very common.
Oh yeah.
maybe-
Oh, I didn't live on the trail to
Oh,
Baldy.
okay.
I lived in
They
the
never got
village
lost
area.
and said, hi, can we? Okay. Nice to know they're not getting lost. They all got their merit badges. Oh, man. So now,
Yeah.
did you ever get snowed in?
I never got snowed in. I was right at about 4,500,
Oh, that's-
500,
that's safe.
5,000 feet. So
Yeah.
that was always like,
Anything over 5, you're
yeah.
just rolling the
So
dice, right?
I always had my no
Now,
excuse.
did you have neighbors up there?
Yeah, I rented from a family that had a really large sprawling ranch, and they had these different properties on it, and I had what was called the chauffeur's cabin, because Baldy's used to be a resort, and people would come from LA, you know, didn't want to go all the way to Pasadena, or they wanted to go up in the mountains, and you know, there was some stuff going on up there. There was like ice, you know, service. They would get ice and chop it away and bring it down.
Oh my God! Before refrigerators?
Oh yeah. There was
my
all this kind of
God.
stuff. So there was this ranch that, you know, had transformed itself over the years. But there was a little teeny tiny cabin, and that was mine, and it was the chauffeur's cabin.
So now, did you ever have a neighbor that like commuted to work in LA every day?
You know, I didn't really have that close of neighbors because I was on this ranch, and
Okay.
the village was a little higher, and that's where they had more community of like
Yeah.
people knew what each other's
Oh, man.
business. And
How many times have you climbed Baldy to the top?
Oh,
to the very top?
Oh, probably over 100.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to do the Baldy Run too.
Oh, it's pretty easy, right?
It's a good hike, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
you
good
know,
one. It's
I knew-
about
I-
8 miles from the trailhead.
I met a mountain climber, and she said she trained for Kilimanjaro on Baldy because it's basically the same. It's like it's a path. It's not. There's
Yeah.
no. You know, it's not like Everest.
Yeah,
she
you're not
said.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can get a little harrowing if you look in the wrong direction
said-
when you're walking. But
She said Kilimanjaro is just like that, except it's 20,000 feet or whatever. I mean, it's like the extra
Wow.
15,000
Yeah.
feet. So
so I'm spending a lot of time up there and in my local and seeing things change. The 210 freeway came through where I used to ride my little Stingray bike, and you know, I was fascinated by the excavation. I remember that happening. Talking about changes to the environment is
Oh, yeah.
what this is leading to. But I remember that you know, I just took tons of photographs of that because it was like this mammoth event happening, and I expected to see dinosaur bones because it was like I lived on top of that land forever, and all
What
of a
was down
sudden,
there?
nothing.
nothing.
But but different ways of constructing had all of, you know, they had all of these kinds of sculptural things that looked like they were putting up the pyramids of Egypt, and there was these long pieces of fabric that would flow to keep the soil down. There was just amazing beauty there. However, that was part of some major change in our area with a lot of development and noticing some of the natural places that I just taken for granted, really, because I live there. started to get really devastated and changed. And what I really enjoyed seeing was the comeback. So when I looked at
when did it come back?
It continually comes back.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that just the way of nature?
The way of nature.
It just, man can fight, but we're going to lose.
Well, kind of maybe. How long are we here right now at this moment? But I've always felt that, it's not okay to do destruction, knowledge. I just don't think it's okay to make that happen. But to pave the world is not okay either. And what I see is when nature comes back, and it's almost like a hero story. It's like long-term.
The hero in mythology, the hero always returns home.
Yeah, and it's definitely been broken, and then it's tied to other layers of meaning, many, many layers of meaning, but then eventually over time there's a resurgence and a transformation that seems to come back with even stronger beauty. And I think about scars, I've got plenty of cat scratch scars here, but a scar that even in our own personal nature, our human body nature, when we have an error, when we have a wound, the scar actually comes back and it's stronger in time.
And you see the earth operating that way too?
I'm a hopeful person. But I really am always drawn to those places where I've seen drought just like stomp on things, or trees, the bark beetle taking down trees and things like that. I haven't found myself going in as an environmentalist. I just go and respond to nature, and the color and the form, and and the energy. And I think that's why when I go into painting, it's all about the movement, and it's about the what I feel when I'm there with the artwork.
Can we take a look at some more of Rebecca's art? She brought a few slides, and I wanted to make sure that the viewers saw them. Now you're painting this, basically this is watercolor, right?
Well, and that one, and they're really large too. They're 4 by 6 feet.
Wow.
On
and so this is a giant
paper.
This is like a giant piece of paper here?
Yeah, this is 4 by 6 feet.
Wow, and again it's watercolor?
It's watercolor.
And so the thing about watercolor is, whoops! You kill one oops, and what happens when you do an oops?
Right. Well, I'm kind of into the temporal, ephemeral aspect of it.
Really?
I'm actually also working with acrylic too.
Cheater.
But you're seeing these watercolors, and these are all from this year. These are just a few months old.
So this is new work.
This is all new work.
And so when you're working on this, is there ever I got to change this? I mean, do you change the composition intuitively, or
I changed the color of the composition.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the composition.
Are these based on photographs?
They're based on photographs. They're based on kind of a mashup of a few photographs, typically.
Okay.
So I'll work with that. I used to go and get my little, Polaroid, not even Polaroid, but have photos actually developed from the drugstore, and then color copy them and cut them and put them in different ways. But now I use Photoshop.
Photoshop, that's cheating!
Or I just sometimes I will just, if I'm ready to make a painting, I will go outside in the moment, and it's very autobiographical. I'll just take a picture of where I'm at and then use that as the basis of the composition and then work from there. Nice, but I used to teach advertising and design, and I have a strong graphic background that's ancient history. But I really feel good about composing and zeroing in on something that has a lot of drama in it, maybe. I like the idea of energy and movement. I think that comes from that idea of punk sensibility a little bit, where it's got to have like this.
It's got to have a raw urgency, or it's not art.
It's because nature's that way to me. Nature's like, sometimes very comforting, but it's also like frightening as all get out, man. It's awesome, and it can kill you in a moment. And
it's as scary as a Misfits concert. Okay, let's see some more art because I'm a fan, and oh my God, is this new?
That one is a couple years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
But this is actually more the direction I'm going in right now.
You're abstracting. From,
I am, and I'm feeling like I've never had with these paintings I've never felt required to portray nature and make a landscape. I don't even think landscape. I don't call myself a watercolor painter, even though I use it. I don't think of myself as painting nature. I'm just painting the experience, and I think everything. When I look back on my life, I feel like everything is a mixture of the experiential and the inner life, and mashing them up somehow.
Wow.
So the idea of experiencing the energy of nature and then also seeing the lessons in it that, you know, evoke more of an inner thought process, or just the idea of how I need to let go. And in fact, in the studio, it's almost like I can't even take credit for any of the painting, because it's like they take over.
The painting guides you.
Yeah.
You just get the palette ready and then just.
Yeah, like many artists, that's how they work. It's you know, I give it a little start, I get inspired, I start it.
And you really help out city folk like myself enjoy nature without actually having to go there and and interact with it. So we do appreciate that.
Thank you.
So let me ask you though, if you are like in a museum level, who would you see yourself with historically? Like is there, like, do you consider yourself part of the modernist tradition, or like maybe or of some kind of landscape art history?
Not landscape art history.
No?
No, I'm more like a Kandinsky.
You feel like you're bringing like a take on the natural world through a Kandinsky filter.
A Kandinsky filter, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You know, when I was 19, because you posted recently a clip about Kandinsky, right? He was like one of my early influences.
He just hit a big new auction. He broke his own auction record twice in the same auction recently.
He's working hard.
Yeah, talk about an overnight success. The guy's been dead for 90 years. Okay.
So
Mrs. Kandinsky's, Grandma Kandinsky's watching right now. I can't believe I was going to donate money. Okay. So drone box. Okay. So.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just recently kind of looked up some of his writings too, and I was just kind of floored by the philosophy behind it, because, you know, I have always hit the ground running, and because I've taught university classes for like 30 years, a direct First Street, like full time, make art, and now I've pushed aside the teaching and I'm in the studio. And I was going to ask you about this, because even with bands, you were just talking about, I've always had 2 or 3 bands going on at once. So is that a Gemini thing?
Oh, we have to. I do another show called Astrology Blitz, and we're gonna have to ship from Modern Art Blitz to Astrology. You'll have to come Wednesday at midnight, and we'll do a live chart analysis. That's that's, you know, Bob Dylan is probably the most famous living Gemini, and other than our esteemed president. So and he's been doing a lot of visual art, you know. So that's a classic music and that. Yeah. So tell us about the bands you were in.
Oh, I don't know about that. I was trying to think about how there was probably 11 or 12 actual performing bands that I did over.
What band would you say had the most traditional success?
Traditional success?
Like
Notorious success.
Notorious
was Desperation Squad.
And
that was the punk band, and which still is operating. Mr.
Not with
Kevin,
you.
No, I'm out.
You're not in the band, but okay.
Well, the reason I got out was I had gotten the teaching gig at Cal Poly, and we got the Warped Tour gig at the same time.
Oh no, and you had to ask yourself.
And I said,
oh no. Whoa. And you decided to sell out. I can't believe I have you on my show.
And then they got kicked off the tour 2 weeks later.
Good decision. Why'd they get kicked off the tour? Because they were Desperation Squad.
Yeah.
They were just.
It was my wonderful dysfunctional family of them.
You know, when self-destruction is your aesthetic, you have to just be very aesthetic.
You know, I joined that band because I'd done a lot of musical performance, and art has always been bedrock for me, just all that, because it pushes me. It's like running. I love running too, and it just pushes me. So I joined Squad because I'd done a copy band, I did a country western band, I did original art bands and all that, and then Squad needed something, so I said, well, this is a band where I have to be prepared for anything at any time, and still go for it. So the band has still very strong music, foundational rock. It's really hot and great, and all kinds of satire and fun and props. And Kevin would always come in, Mr. P, excuse me, Kevin Osmus, who the band and the songs are all about the angst of his life, which was so much fun.
Angst ain't dead.
And so anyway, we had a good time, and it was 16 years I was fully involved.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have one more art image to show of Rebecca's, and Oh, this is your. Oh, no. Okay, this is interesting. You're
This
doing
is
this
an
installation.
installation.
You're not
Yeah.
just doing the rectangle, square,
No.
center line here. Where you got the art going up
Right.
and
That's
kind of
about
broken up there.
5
Where is this at?
5 paper panels. This is at the Daw Center for the Arts in Pomona, which is an amazing.
Oh, I love the Dawes Center. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pomona's got a little. That art scene's been going now for about 20 years now, right?
Oh, more than that.
Oh my
When I
God.
was just a little artist, I lived on the Pomona Mall before it was the art colony, and
Oh my God.
I got to be involved with the DAW, and it was performance, it was wild, it was stuff on the roof, it was crazy,
Freedom.
crazy stuff. Oh, I meant to mention that we did play Al's Bar.
Oh, you played Al's Bar
Many
back in the day.
times.
Oh, geez.
And
Yeah,
you?
I went from being their best customer to being the manager of my first job sober. I have to thank Mark Kreisel, the owner, for probably saving my life, and yet Mark and I don't like each other.
All right, well, but I love that connection.
How many
was really
people
great.
save your life that you hate? Hey. So,
So this shows up right now through July 22nd.
awesome.
And I just curated the show at the Claremont Museum called Tree Speak.
Okay, I love
Yeah.
it. She's on the show. We have a 25-minute interview, and then, oh, by the way, I just curated a museum show, but who cares about that? Tell me about managing Al's Bar. Oh my God, you just curated a museum show? It's like, oh my God. And this is up now?
Yeah, it's up for another month and a half, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and prior to that, I was in the museum show, but I love the title of this, 6 Decades of Claremont Art. And I got to be the youngster.
Claremont has
the
that
last
reputation.
decade.
They have that reputation, and then they do it to themselves.
Right.
So there you go. Well, and here's another beaut to go. And I want to say about Kandinsky, you know what his nickname was? All the
Are you gonna
artists,
ruin
all the
it for
artists
me?
in the studios. No. It's a funny story. Is his nickname was the Eye. And if he came into your studio, if you let him in his studio, 2 days later you'd see your painting in his painting. So that was he was kind of famous for that. So here comes Kandinsky, and people would pull out all their old stuff. They wouldn't want him to see the new stuff.
You know why I brought that up was I felt really strongly about how that kind of untaintableness, that idea that when I go to the studio, I can't pull anything over on the paintings.
No.
It's just like, man, it shows up right in my face immediately. You have to like
You
totally
you have to go with the painting.
Right,
I love
right.
it. I love an
Love it.
intuitive painter.
You're
Hey,
great.
Rebecca Hamm, thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us on Modern Art Blitz. We'll be back right after this.